Hello. Today we're continuing to talk about the different things that animals do in the winter. So we talked about how they need to have their 4 needs met. Do you remember what the needs for animals are? Water, food, shelter, air. So animals always need to have their needs met. And last time we talked about one way that they might get their needs met if things aren't just right is that they will migrate to a new place where things are just right for them. Well, there's a couple other things that animals might do in the winter when things aren't just right for them. They might hibernate or they might adapt. So there's these 3 topics we'll talk about today: migration, hibernation, and adapting. Okay. So hibernate is like the bear in the winter, right? They stock up and eat a whole bunch of food, and then they go into their home and spend the winter in their den or wherever they are in a really calm sleep. And they ate a whole bunch of food ahead of time so their body has enough energy to live off of while they're in this really deep, deep sleep. So that's hibernating. Then there's migrating, which we know is when animals go to a new place, they travel to a new place to have their needs met. And then adapting is when animals do something that helps them survive when the conditions change. So they might have a new way of getting food. They might do something to their home. They might grow a thicker coat to be really warm. It's like how in the winter we put on our warm winter coats. Well, some animals grow a thicker coat in the winter and then lose or shed some of that thicker coat when it gets warm out. So there's different ways that animals adapt. So we're going to read a book, and the book is called Animals in Winter. And that book tells us different animals that might hibernate or migrate or adapt. And we're going to draw pictures of them on this paper as we watch the book. It's a video of the book. And so there's hibernate here. It starts with an H. Hibernate. Migrate. Migrate starts with an M. And then adapt starts with an A. Adapt. Okay, so we're going to watch the video. And as we're watching it, as the woman is reading the book to us, we'll hear about an animal and she'll tell us if that animal is migrating, adapting, or hibernating. And then I want you to draw a picture of that in whichever column it goes in on your paper. Okay, so let's get started. We'll work on this together. So let's see. I need to get the book pulled up. Here we go. Let me make it big for you. There we go. And you should have markers or pencil
Animals
or crayon.
in Winter by Henrietta Bancroft and Richard G. Van Gelder, illustrated by Helen K. Davey.
And one more thing that I wanted to tell you before we watch the full video is that if you're drawing an animal, you might want to pause the video so that you can finish drawing your animal and then keep watching so you don't miss any animals. Or you could watch it once and then go back and watch it again and try and remember some of them. I'm going to probably try and draw them quickly as I watch the video. And then maybe at the end, I'll go back and add more details. So you pick what works for you.
Animals in Winter. The days grow short, the nights grow long. It is getting colder. Winter is coming. Leaves have fallen from the trees. There are no berries on the bushes. Insects are gone. The grass is dead and brown. Birds and other animals are getting ready for the winter. Some of the birds will fly south. Bluebirds and orioles go toward the south. They go where it is warm and sunny and where there is food for them to eat. When spring comes, the birds will make the long journey back north. They migrate.
Okay, there's our first animal right there. The bluebirds and orioles fly south for the winter to be in a place where it's warmer and they can find food, and then they come back in the summer. So what column will we put those birds on? Do they hibernate, migrate, or adapt? That's right, migrate. So in the middle, we'll draw those birds. Okay, so go ahead and draw your birds. Okay, we'll keep watching and just pause it if you need a little bit more time. So I can show you what I did. I drew just a small picture of the birds there in the migrate.
Some butterflies migrate too.
Second
That
animal.
is what the monarch butterflies.
Okay, second animal is the butterfly. The monarch butterfly also migrates. Okay, so get a picture of the monarch.
Too. They gather in a tree by the hundreds before cold weather comes. They stay in the tree all night. In the morning, they fly toward their winter homes in the south. Many bats fly south too, but some bats stay in the north all winter.
Okay, well, I just heard that some bats fly south. So some bats migrate, but then she said some bats stay in the north. So it sounds like we might be able to put bats in two different areas. So since I first heard that some bats fly south, that means they move. I'm going to go ahead and add bats to my migrating column. Okay, so far in the migrating, I have birds, butterflies, and bats. Okay, let's keep going and see what we find next.
When the weather gets cold, they go to a cave. There is no wind or snow in a cave. The bats sleep there all winter. They do not eat. They live on fat stored inside them. They do not move. They hardly breathe. They sleep, sleep, sleep. They hibernate.
Okay, we're on to hibernate. And the first animal we have is, what animal are we learning about that hibernates? The bat. So now we can put bat over here on hibernate too. To do a bat on the hibernate section. So bats hibernate. Some bats hibernate and some bats fly south. This is hibernate. It's the first one on the left. Starts with an H. Hibernate.
Woodchucks hibernate too. When fall comes, a woodchuck eats and eats and eats. He eats grass, twigs, and leaves. He grows fat. When it gets cold, the woodchuck crawls into his long tunnel and goes to sleep. The woodchuck has two entrances, a secret entrance and a main entrance. He also has a sleeping chamber and a toilet chamber too.
Okay, so we're learning now about the woodchuck, and we learned that the woodchuck hibernates. So add a woodchuck on your hibernation column. Let's finish the
Does
woodchuck
he sleep
page.
for a day? Longer than that. Does he sleep for a week? Longer than that. A month? Even longer. A woodchuck can sleep as long as 4 months.
Whoa, 4
Usually
months.
through December, January, February, and
See
March.
that up here in this picture.
The woodchuck seems hardly alive. He breathes very slowly. His heart beats slowly. He sleeps, sleeps, sleeps. He hibernates.
Okay, so add the
Some
woodchuck to
animals
hibernate.
do not have to hibernate. They gather food and save it for the winter.
So these are animals that are adapting. Okay, some of them will gather food and save it. That's one way to adapt.
That is what a pika does. A pika looks a little like a rabbit, but with round ears. Pikas live in high mountains where winters are long and cold. They eat grass. In summer, they cut more grass than they can eat. They spread the grass on flat stones. The hot sun dries it. By the end of summer, a pika may have gathered 50 pounds of grass. she hides it under rocks. In winter, she eats the dry grass. It keeps her alive.
Okay, so add pica.
Squirrels gather food and brown.
Oh, excuse me. Oh my gosh. Add pica to your adapting column. Let me find the page again. I'm sorry, I hit it with my finger accidentally. There we go. There's the pica. Add the pica to adapting. That's the last column we have here. The adapting column. What do they do? Do you remember what it said that the pica does? They gather food, right? They gather food and store it up for the winter. When there's lots of food around, they gather it. So over here, you can do a pica on the adopt page.
By the end of summer, a pica may have gathered 50 pounds of grass.
That's amazing.
She hides it under rocks. In winter, she eats the dry grass. It keeps her alive. Squirrels gather food too and save it for the winter. They dig holes in the ground. They bury hickory nuts and acorns. When winter comes, they dig them up and eat them. Sometimes squirrels forget where they buried the nuts. Trees may grow from the nuts the squirrels forgot.
Okay, so squirrels, what do squirrels do? What did we learn that squirrels do? They adopt, right? They are also ones that gather their foods. So squirrel under adopt. This is the adopt column. Okay. Go ahead and pause the video whenever you need to, when you need more time.
Some animals do not get ready for winter at all. They do not store food. They do not hibernate. They do not migrate. They must hunt for food all winter long.
These animals are also adapters. They tough it out.
There are mice that must hunt all winter for seeds of goldenrod, asters, and other wild plants. Sometimes they eat farmers' corn, oats, and wheat.
Okay, add
Deer
mouse to
must dig in the
adapt.
snow for dried leaves, plants, and moss. When the snow is deep, they must eat the twigs, buds, and bark of trees. The rabbit must hunt under the snow for bits of grass and plants.
Okay, make sure that you add deer and rabbit. They're both adopters. We're learning about a lot of adopters. So deer and rabbits both go in the adopt page. Or the adopt column. I mean, it's not really a page. So far over in the adopt, I have mouse, deer, pica, rabbit, and squirrel. Lots of animals do things to prepare so they can stay in the same place.
When the snow is deep, he, too, eats the buds and bark of bushes so he can stay alive.
The rabbit does that.
In the winter, the fox hunts for mice and rabbits.
Okay, add the fox.
This fox has discovered a mouse in its tunnel beneath the snow. When the winter is cold and the snow is deep, many animals cannot find food. Here are some ways you can help animals in the winter. Perhaps you might make a peanut and popcorn garland, or nail a sunflower head to a post or a fence, or maybe even make an apple, cranberry, raisin, and orange garland. Please remember, once you begin feeding birds and other wild animals in winter, you must continue. They are depending on the food you supply. If you decide to put a bird house or bird feeders in the tree, be sure to add seeds and nuts and keep it away from predators. Or maybe you might even want to plant shrubs with some berries for some food and shelter. Eventually, the days grow longer, the nights grow shorter. It begins to get warmer.
What season is coming? It was winter, and now the days are growing longer and it's getting warmer. What season is coming after winter? Winter, spring.
Spring is coming.
All right, everybody. Thanks for reading that book with me and working on this project. We really learned a lot of animals that migrate, hibernate, and adapt. We learned there's a lot of animals that adapt. There are also lots of animals that migrate and hibernate. We didn't learn a whole bunch in this story. I'm going to show you just a few, and you don't have to add these to your paper, but you can if you want to. So for migrating, I have geese, duck, puffin, monarch butterfly, swallow, Arctic tern, humpback whale, elk, wood thrush, caribou. Those are all animals that migrate. For hibernate, I have woodchuck, turtle, and some turtles migrate too. So some turtles migrate, some hibernate. Bat, this is hibernate, bear, bee, snake, chipmunk, snail, hedgehog, frog. And for adapt, I have wolverine, owl, fox, hare, like a rabbit, a hare, red squirrel, moose, mountain goat, wild turkeys, beaver, and shrew. So I'll show you that if you want to take a look at that for a minute. See those? Whoa, careful. Sorry, my dog is flipping around over there. She has to be really careful. She has a broken leg, so that's why I was a little bit startled by that. But anyways, so these are animals that adapt, migrate, and hibernate. Yeah, so I want you to think about the different things that animals do. When you see an animal outside your home, think, is this animal an animal that hibernates, migrates, or adapting? If it's winter and you see them out and about, it's likely that they're an animal that adapts, right? Otherwise, if they were hibernating and it's winter, they'd probably be away somewhere where you wouldn't see them. Okay, so just wanted to learn about these different things that animals do in the winter today so that you understand that migrating isn't the only way that animals get their needs met. It's one way that animals can get their needs met, but there are also other ways that animals get their needs met. We will be focusing on in our theme on migration and why animals migrate, how they migrate, which animals migrate, and we'll be learning about some animals that migrate. But there are other ways that animals adapt and get their needs met. Okay, so tomorrow we'll move on to talking more about migration. And from here on out, we'll focus on migration. Okay, thanks for doing that with me today, everyone.